What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So I'll be making schedule predictions for every single Power 5 team in college football for this upcoming season. Now I'll also do a subsequent conference standings video once I finish every team in a specific conference, just as a synopsis of all of my schedule predictions. Those synopsis videos will be coming much later on into August. As we get closer to the start of the season, I've got to finish up the individual ones between now and then, with this being the last Pac-12 video that I have to put out. So let's go ahead and get into the Washington State schedule predictions. Some quick thoughts on the Washington State program as a whole heading into 2022. And this is an interesting program because they aren't ever really a great team, but they're good enough that almost nobody wants to play them really. And every now and then they'll just find some kind of magic. Like see Minshew Mania a couple years ago, and they'll go on a run, and it kind of scares and upsets a lot of teams on the way. And it's always really interesting and fun to watch from the outside looking in. But a lot of that is due to them consistently having high-powered offenses with average-ish defenses, and that can create a lot of excitement, and it keeps them in most every game they play because they can score with most anybody. And I expect this year to be much of the same, where they're going to have a high-powered offense with a questionable to average defense, and that should make just about every game on their schedule winnable, but at the same time, it makes them susceptible to losing games that they probably shouldn't. So it's a delicate balance that can lead to a lot of volatility on their record from the schedule. I mean, regardless, I think they're going to be good enough to likely find their way to a bowl game, but how they get there will be an interesting ride to say the least. So now let's talk about some opponents who just don't have much of a chance to beat them, barring some level of catastrophe, and those teams are Idaho and Colorado State. Now, Colorado State, a little bit more likely than Idaho, still pretty unlikely. Washington State has to be able to win that game if they want to even have a hope of making a bowl game. So the first game we are going to talk about comes in week 2 when they go on the road at Wisconsin, and this is a really interesting one. Now, Wisconsin is they're a tough team to get a read on because they play outstanding defense every year and they run the ball really well. But against teams with high-powered offenses like Washington State's, if Washington State can put up some points here against Wisconsin's defense, which I think they'll be able to, I don't think they're going to hang 40 on them or anything, but if they can get into the 20s, then Wisconsin may be in a little bit of trouble because even though Washington State doesn't have a great defense, Wisconsin's offense has been just anemic over the last few years. I mean, their passing offense was in the 100s last year. And again, that may change this year, but it's been that way for a while, and every single time that I think it might change, it just doesn't. So I'm not expecting much better than that again this year. I mean, I don't think it'll be in the 100s, but I don't think it's going to be in the top half of the country either. So even though it's a really tough road game against a team that's probably a little bit better than them just overall and on paper, I think if Washington State can manufacture some points, they'll be in a really good shot to win this game. Wisconsin probably takes this one 6 or 7 times out of 10, but I think Washington State's going to get a big upset here. I think they find a way to get a big win over Wisconsin, just due to their offense and the fact that Wisconsin really doesn't have much of one. So I'm going to go with them to win in that one. Next game we're going to talk about comes in week 4 when they host Oregon, and this is one where they're noticeably worse. They're good enough to hang in there with Oregon, give them some trouble. They've got a high-powered offense, and maybe Oregon struggles a little bit, being that they're, in year 1 under a new head coach and it's a defensive coordinator, and they've got a brand new quarterback and all that stuff. They've got a lot of moving parts going on. So maybe you see Oregon struggle some, but I kind of doubt it. I think they're going to be just fine, to be honest. So I'm going to go with Oregon to win there. Maybe that's a game you can see Washington State getting an upset, but I don't think so. Next game, they host Cal, and this is one of 2 pretty evenly matched teams in my opinion. Really could go either way. Sort of a toss-up, kind of 50-50 sort of game. Washington State's at home. I think that's a big help here. I think Washington State has a slightly better offense, so I'm going to go with Washington State to win this one. Certainly a toss-up game, though, 50-50. Could go either way. They could absolutely lose that one. So definitely one to keep an eye on. Then they go on the road at USC, and that's one where, as good as their offense may be, it's not going to be as good as USC's in all likelihood, and their defenses are probably about even. So USC is being the home team. They've got the better quarterback. They've got Lincoln Riley and all. They're going to be a better team than Washington State this year. Maybe Washington State can give them some trouble. I don't think they're going to be able to win, though. I'm going to go with USC to win there. Then they follow that up with at Oregon State, and this is definitely one that they should look to win, but it's not an easy win either. It's a tough road trip against a team that is probably their equal. And it's one of those 50-50 kind of toss-up games. Really could go either way. I expect it to be really close, really tightly contested, and certainly one to keep an eye on. I'm going to go with Oregon State to win this one, mainly because they're the home team here. But definitely a winnable game for Washington State. Then they get a big bye week before heading into Utah. Now, Utah also gets a bye week heading into this one, but they play Utah on a Thursday. So the bye week, it's not completely canceled out, but it's kind of canceled out. And they get them at home. Now, Utah, I think, is going to be the best team in the conference for this upcoming season, and they're a really tough team to match up with. But I do think Washington State might have enough offense to put something together against them. And I think they're going to be good enough to get a big upset somewhere along the way. And so I'm going to go with them in a big shock to beat Utah. Now, Utah wins this game probably 8 times out of 10. But with it being on a Thursday, it's a night game. They get them at home. And maybe you catch Utah sleeping a little bit. I'm going to go with them to beat them in there. Again, you can't really argue just on paper, though, because Utah is just going to be a better team. I think they'll slip up somewhere, though, and I think Washington State might be the one to get them by surprise. Then they play at Stanford next, and, I think they're going to be in complete letdown mode coming off of the Utah game. And Stanford is a pretty even team to them. They're on the road there. Definitely a winnable game for them, but not one that I would be too terribly confident in them winning, and certainly one that could go either way. Gonna be a really close game. I'm gonna go with Stanford to get the win there. I think Stanford is gonna be not quite as good as Washington State, but just about even with them. With them being the home team, them coming off a big Utah win, gonna go with Stanford there. Then they host Arizona State, and Arizona State is a team with a lot of question marks around them. A lot of unknowns. They're going to be a good team. They're going to be probably around the same level of Washington State, probably slightly better. Ignoring a lot of the off-the-field questions and controversy stuff, but just on-the-field product, they'll probably be slightly better than Washington State. Washington State gets them at home. It's another one of those. There's a lot of these, like I was talking about, a lot of these 50-50 toss-up, could go either way kind of games. I'm going to go with Arizona State in this one. I'm not terribly confident in that pick, to be honest. This is one that really could go either way. Going to go with Arizona State, but certainly a winnable game for them. And then they go at Arizona. And this is one where they're a better team than Arizona, to be honest. But Arizona's not horrible. I think Arizona's going to surprise somebody along the way. They're going to get an upset somewhere in the Pac-12. I kind of just think it may fall here because I think Washington State's going to be looking ahead at the Washington game a lot. And they're not one of, they're close-ish to Arizona. Now, they're certainly better. But I gave them the benefit of the doubt against Utah. So, going to kind of keep it balanced. I'm going to give Arizona an upset win against Washington State here. You could flip those, to be honest, and it would probably be a little bit more likely scenario. But, I think there's always going to be a little bit of room for chaos here, so that's kind of where I have that one. And then they round out the year with Washington at home, and this was one where Washington's a slightly better team than them, but not dramatically better. And it's going to be a must-win game for Washington State at this point if the things go kind of how I think they will. I think Washington State could be fighting for ball eligibility in this one. And, they get Washington at home. It's a rivalry game that can always go either way. They have the offense to keep them in it. I think Washington State rounds out the year with a nice big upset win over Washington. It's not a huge upset. The teams are decently close. Probably slight edge to Washington there, but when you get them at home, it kind of balances it out. So I'm going to, side with Washington State there, give them the benefit of the doubt, and that will round out their season with a nice win. So that would make Washington State 6-6 on the year. To me, that's a good record for them, and it's right in line with about what they should expect. Now, this could easily swing on the low end to a 4 or a 5-win season, assuming they lose to a Washington or a Utah or something like that, or a Wisconsin. But it could also swing to a 7 or 8-win season if they get an upset or two, and then they also handle business against an Arizona or a Stanford or Oregon State or something like that. So, I'm kind of picking right in the middle of that and going with 6 wins. And really, to me, they're right in the middle of the Pac-12 as far as, ranking the teams. They're pretty much dead in the center. They can beat most anybody. They can lose to most anybody. And so a lot of these games could go either way. I have them getting 3 upsets to get the 6 wins. While that's certainly possible, like I said, they could lose all 3 of those games but beat Arizona and Arizona State and Stanford or Oregon State at the same time. So I have them with a weird record, losing some games against teams that they should beat, but winning some games against teams that they probably shouldn't as well. You can kind of move those around a little bit. Overall, I think that they're going to find a way to get to 6 wins somehow, but picking those games out on the schedule is a little bit of a crapshoot with so many games that could just easily swing either way. Anyway, though, that'll do it for this one. Let me know down below in the comment section where you guys agree and or disagree with me on the Washington State schedule in 2022. Tell me what record you think they're going to have next year and who, if anybody, they're going to lose to. Also, if you've made it this far in the video, be sure to go ahead and leave a like. It does help out the channel tremendously. Let us know you're enjoying this kind of content, and subscribe for more college football content in the future. This will be my last one in the Pac-12. Big Ten's coming after that. I've already finished the SEC, ACC, and Big 12, and now Pac-12, technically. So check out those if you haven't. Be on the lookout for the Big Ten stuff coming soon. Probably finish that up by next weekend or so. So thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time.